Hello again. In this case study, we're talking about a situation where someone knows private information about someone else. And the question is, should they share that information? Note that there is always a presumption in favor of privacy. In general, we should mind our own business. We should not be talking to other people about issues that don't directly concern them. Why is that the case? Why do we generally feel as though people's privacy should be respected? Very briefly, we can go back to the three approaches to ethical decision making that we talked about before and that we'll be studying in depth very shortly. From a teleological perspective, when you respect people's privacy, that leads to healthier relationships. It's also a recognition that human nature is such that we can't have deep, quality, open relationships with everybody in our community. Instead, in order for us to thrive, we end up with a small group of friends and family that we can trust and that we can relate to. And those are the people with whom we share our secrets. And so, gosh darn it, you dumb cat. I have to put you away. And those are the people with whom we share our secrets. And so that's why it's generally not acceptable to share private information with someone else on a teleological perspective. The same thing is true from a deontological perspective. We would not want other people to know our private information, and therefore sharing private information is not reversible in Kant's sense. And from a utilitarian perspective, in the long term, the argument would be that not having privacy makes people less happy. And so those are the general reasons why we have this presumption in favor of privacy. However, as we talked about last time, sometimes there are more important moral principles that take precedence over this concern with privacy. For instance, safety, danger to specific people would certainly outweigh our concern about privacy. So, for instance, Mr. Koehl in this article says that there are three main things to keep in mind when you're thinking about reporting someone's private information. First, is it absolutely necessary to do this in order to prevent imminent and real harm to other persons? There's got to be real danger, real harm that's about to happen if you don't share this information. The second thing is the harm has to happen to a specific person. It can't just be a general concern about things that could happen. There has to be a real danger of specific harm to a specific person. And finally, it's got to be the kind of situation that someone can do something about. If there's nothing that can be done to prevent the harm, then basically what you're doing amounts to gossip, and it's not a good enough reason to set aside our presumption in favor of privacy. So those three positions or those three criteria that are laid out here by Koehl make a lot of sense and give us some good guidance in making these kinds of decisions. Two other things I want to mention to you real quickly. First is that something Immanuel Kant, the founder, or at least the modern representative of deontology, said is that in most cases, if you find yourself in a moral dilemma, it's because of a previous moral failing of some sort, either on your part or somebody else's part. And we see in the case study for today that this is the case. This man did something wrong. He got into someone else's email that he should not have gotten into. And because he did that, he got information that now presents a dilemma to him. And so what I want to do is just kind of remind us of this fact, that most of the time when we run into the kind of moral dilemmas that we're talking about in this class, it's because of some kind of previous moral failing. And so it just gives us more incentive to make good choices all the time. Of course, sometimes we find ourselves in dilemmas that are the result of someone else's moral failing, and there's nothing we can do about that. Let me leave you with this question or this thought. One thing that's mentioned in the radio show is that generally speaking, we should not tell on somebody who's cheating, on a spouse or on a boyfriend or a girlfriend. It's interesting to think about what you think our obligations are. I will say, generally speaking, what I have found is that people feel a stronger obligation to inform someone about a situation of cheating to the degree that they are have a closer relationship with the people in the situation. Otherwise, if it's a stranger or a neighbor, we generally think that this presumption in favor of privacy applies here. And so we should respect people's privacy even at the expense of allowing someone to go on being cheated on. Some question I often ask students is this: suppose you found out that one of your parents was cheating on the other. Let's say your father was cheating on your mother. And the question is, should you tell your mother? It's very clear from both a teleological perspective and a deontological perspective that you must tell your mother. From a deontological perspective, she's a rational, autonomous being. She deserves accurate information, especially about something that concerns her intimate life. And so it's really a very straightforward question in terms of the respect of rational autonomy. If the mother has her rational autonomy, if she is in a place where she's not in imminent danger of death, perhaps suffering from a terrible disease or something like that, almost always it's a teleology or deontology would tell us you must tell the mother in this case. Teleology would also tend to give us the same result. From a utilitarian perspective, we might find a different kind of answer, because you might argue that the mother would be so upset with this information that it's better for her not to know. But from a deontological or a teleological perspective, that rational autonomy or that respect for a relationship and the quality of the relationship is more important even than the suffering that would ensue for the mother in this case. All right, so anyway, that's just kind of something to think about, and I look forward to seeing you again soon.